Hi guys, Trevor Swenson with Through the Darkness, my personal journey with post-traumatic stress disorder and trauma and stressor-related disorder. I wanted to talk to you today, circle back around and touch on the topic of validation again. And I want to do that just because I've experienced both sides of the equation of validation, and I know what it feels like on both sides of that equation. And unfortunately, there are a lot of trauma and stressor survivors that have not experienced the validation side of the equation and have gone through life with complete lack of validation from those around them. And I understand what that feels like. I understand what that does to a spirit and a soul. I understand the complexity that adds to the trauma cycle. And I want to challenge all of us today to be better validators of people as we go about our lives. And one of the best examples that I could come up with happens to show a shortcoming of mine. I had talked about how with PTSD, one of the most devastating aspects of PTSD for me is the complete lack of interest in doing things that were once enjoyable, that were joy-filled, that were exhilarating, that I couldn't wait to get started on the day to do them. And one of them, it happens to be farming. And I hold in my hand a packet of seeds, a big packet of seeds, and these happen to be pumpkin seeds. It really doesn't matter, but for today's talk, I want you to picture these seeds being in your possession, and each one of these seeds representing an opportunity to validate somebody, to build somebody up, to speak into somebody, to speak promise into somebody, to validate somebody's fears, to validate somebody's anxieties, to validate somebody's depression, to validate somebody's grieving. And what you don't know is I bought 2 packs of mega pumpkin patch seeds to be planted this year. And I finally got enough motivation to get one of the packs planted. And guess what? I've got a lot of pumpkins. I've got a lot of produce that has been developed because I took the effort to do something with these seeds. I have a crop. I have a return on my investment. And I also have in my hands what could be represented as the missed opportunity to sow a seed with somebody, to say something kind, to be validating, to talk about their hurt, to just sit quietly with them and listen. And sometimes you just sit quietly with people is what they need more than anything at their moment of grief and hurt. And the difference between the two, obviously, is that at the end of the road, when we all come to the end of the road in our life, you are either going to be left with a package of unplanted seeds, or you are going to be left with a vast garden producing not only immense amounts of fruit and beauty and seeds for the future, but you're also going to be fulfilled in a very, very deep manner if you take those thoughts, those quiet nudges to reach out, those quiet little promptings to pick up the phone and text somebody and check in on somebody, or to stop by and sit quietly with somebody as they go through something very, very rough. Life is all about planting seeds. And one of the interesting things about planting seeds is that over the course of the last few years, when I've been suffering the most, when times have been most dark, when I've been struggling with suicidal thoughts, when I've been struggling with daily anxiety and fear and depression, it's very interesting to me that God always sends somebody in the form of a person or a message or something to comfort me. And I take great comfort in knowing that I serve a God, and I hope you will serve a God, that is the great comforter and is a God that speaks nothing but promise and life and compassion and kindness and patience and forgiving and forgiveness over you. And it's something that is very, very needed when you are walking through a season like we are walking through, when we're struggling with this. Because to be quite honest with you, I've spent a lot of hours the past month or so thinking about the simple pleasures in life that I used to be able to enjoy, and actually had a neat conversation with a young man the other day about me loving watching and hearing and seeing his zeal for life and enjoying the simple pleasures in life that are at this moment gone for me and have been gone for quite some time. And I hope that they return. But I know that part of my healing process is going to be to continue sowing seeds. And whether it be this video series, or whether it be me in person, or whether it be me via a text message or an email, whatever it might be, I truly believe that my life's accomplishment will be measured by what do I do with the package of seeds that I have been given. Do I choose to leave them in the package, or do I choose to plant them as the opportunities arise, maybe to never even see the incredible produce that they produce through stronger families or stronger relationships or healing, or someone being pulled out of a time of despair, whatever it might be. But I just challenge you to, instead of keeping the seeds in your pocket, instead of keeping those compliments, instead of keeping those compassionate, empathetic words, instead of keeping those times that you should be checking in on people, that you do take the opportunity to do that when you feel that nudging, that prompting. And I often ask myself, whenever somebody pops into my mind to check in on them, I often wonder, and it's a very deep wonder and a very deep mystery, if it isn't indeed God that is putting that thought in my mind for me to take action on. And obviously that action is speaking it, that action is texting it, that action is emailing it, that action is going to see somebody, that action is doing a video series on PTSD and the walk with PTSD. Whatever it is, I want to make sure that when I come to the end of my life, that I have done all that I possibly can with the seeds that I've been given. I want my life to look like the vast patch of pumpkins that I did get planted this year, and I don't want it to look like the ones I wasn't able to because of PTSD. So I just ask you to fight on. I ask you to think of other people. I ask you to validate others in their hurt. I ask you to not be judgmental. Remember that their trauma is their trauma, and your trauma is your trauma. Nobody has the right to determine what was traumatic to you and what was not traumatic to you. If it was traumatic to you, it is your trauma, and we need to learn to have a heart for people that are hurting and to sow those seeds of encouragement as we go along. We may never see the domino effect that takes place by one simple email, by one simple text message, by one simple spoken word. But follow your heart and take the advantage and take the opportunity when it presents itself to plant that seed of validation, to plant that seed of kindness and compassion and empathy. Even if you haven't experienced it yourself in your own life, it is healing and it is refreshing. And I promise you that it will produce a vast garden of produce in life for other people. I ask you to click and subscribe. I ask you to hit the notification bell. I'm going to continue doing videos as long as I see fit. Pass this on to somebody that you may think finds it valuable. Remember, God loves you. He's a compassionate God. He understands your trauma. He understands your hurt, and he wants you to see a full and abundant life through his Son, Christ. This is Trevor Swenson with PTSD Through the Darkness. Thanks for joining me.